What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Lords of War Games and Hobbies video. I decided to retire arrogant, condescending Chris for at least a week. Just be low-key, somewhat more reasonable Chris. Hiding over here, got some Maggotkin, Jace, beautiful Sylvaneth army in the background. And I wanted to chat a little bit about, nice little short video about this kind of like idea of whether Games Workshop can ever get back to prioritizing sort of like their existing product range over, sort of like the proliferation and increased rate of new releases. So just a little bit of background and history. Having worked for Games Workshop for a long time before I opened my own hobby shop, ran some shops for them, and had a little bit more like insight and intimate knowledge into what goes on behind the scenes. Having some long-term friends that are higher ups and that sort of thing. It's interesting to see like over the years the dynamic shift that's happened from a place. So where did they start out? So it used to be that the sort of like sales mantra of a Games Workshop was sell existing products, sell what's on your shelf, right? And that actually was backed up by their sales data that basically said like, look, 80% of your sales, maybe higher, is the stuff that's already on your shelf. So that should primarily be your focus. You have no control over how much of the new stuff you're getting each week. Each month at a time. Like we didn't really have like weekly releases necessarily. You never had control over that. So what you do have control over is that like everything's always in stock. This is kind of how it used to be. Sell what you have, right? So there was more of a focus on like because that was the focus. As a shop owner, as a business, manager or whatever, it was like, okay, let's do like a long drawn out 40K or Warhammer Fantasy Battle campaign, and we're gonna really drive sales for these products and encourage people to buy like battalions and build new armies and that sort of stuff, right? There was a bit more longevity to it because you already had all the tools you needed to sell things to people, right? And where we've moved to is so much of the like hot mainstay items that people want to buy are out of stock on a consistent basis. Like Eldar came out in the early part of the year and you still really can't like collect half the range, which is insane. We've moved to a situation where as a business, as a store, new releases are making up a much larger portion of your sales, maybe half in some cases. Probably higher for independent retailers than actual Games Workshops, but I would still imagine the number for GW stores or Warhammer stores has skyrocketed too. And as a disproportionate amount of your sales is made up by new releases, that tends to draw your focus away. It tends to put your focus onto those things. And as a business owner, you start to be like, well, I have to really drive these new products that are coming out. But the problem is it becomes this like shot in the arm dopamine hit kind of thing where like you need to capture this like money quickly, but it also turns over so fast onto the next thing that you can't really stay focused on that thing for very long, right? So what's a good example? So like, let's say Eldar, let's just use that as an example again. Like let's say I had developed some like, I think we had like a Phoenix Lord painting challenge or something like that. I couldn't like extend that beyond the kind of pre-release because like we literally like could only get so many, right? And once those were gone, they were gone for a long time. So there becomes like a point at which like there's no continuity to it, and you can't really like extend those things out. So you have to have these almost like flash in the pan things, and then move on to the next thing. And it means that like you have to almost be this like ADD, short-sighted kind of business where you're kind of like just be like, oh yeah, get excited about this. Okay, don't be excited about that anymore. You already bought it. Put it on your shelf. Get excited about this, right? And there's a bit more of this kind of like, because, and I say this and I'm still looking, there's still a ton of 40K kits on the wall, right? At least in theory, a lot of stuff is sold out, and GW's attention, all the Warhammer community energy, most of the articles, probably like high, like 90%, 95, 98%, is all built around selling you what's coming up soon, in the future, or tomorrow. And there's little to no effort being spent, at least marketing wise, energy wise, on what's already kind of existing, right? And I mean, there's probably a good reason for that. Like, they probably say, well, we invested a lot of money into making this new stuff, we want to sell the crap out of it and then move on to the next thing, and then we invest money into it and we sell it, and we sell it out and we make our money back and we make some profit, and they just keep doing that. And that seems to be what they're doing now. And then all of the like existing kit stuff is just gravy, right? And I just, as a thought kind of thing to myself, I'm like, is this just how things are now? Or is there or did GW come into this by accident? I think that's probably more likely what happened, right? Just by like trying to keep growing every year and increasing their sales, they have to put out more kits, have more release weekends, have more big box sets. And they have to keep outdoing themselves every year to keep increasing the profit, right? And their growth. And I think they, in order to support that system of trying to grow, they have basically been like, change the focus from we're going to try to increase the number of people playing and buying Warhammer, and then that way we'll sell more kits, to a little bit like, well, if we release more things, our existing customers will buy more stuff. And that has worked tremendously well. I think the numbers bear that out. But the dangerous part is, it's kind of double-edged, right? Like, at some point, people hit their like breaking limit where they can only spend so much money. In a business sense, like, you always want to have, if you can have more customers spread out buying less stuff versus a few customers buying a lot of stuff, which business is more stable? It's the one that sells more things, less, the same amount of things to more people, whatever. Yeah. So you want, it's less volatility that way, right? So you wonder if there is a thoughtful kind of way they're looking at this and being like, can we pull ourselves back from this brink, right? Because we can all see it. There to me, there's like almost no way they can kind of like increase this anymore next year, right? Like, do they just have like a new army come out every week? Like that's there is an unsustainable like limit to what you can do with this model. So my thought is that we are reaching kind of like the peak of like probably releases at some point in the next year or two of what they can actually feasibly do, because obviously they can't even keep up with what they're doing right now, right? So they are literally like hurting their existing range in order to keep the pace with all this new stuff, quite literally. And I think they're banking on the fact that this new facility expansion that they're going to be building next year is going to hopefully let them fill in and do all the kind of replenishment stuff that they haven't been able to keep up with. And then I guess at that point, do we see a pivot back to the core business practice of let's try to increase the number of people doing this again, right? But that business model requires a more thoughtful like experiment of like, okay, well, are we going to keep opening new Warhammer stores that focus on recruitment and bringing new people into the hobby? How is our brand with our video game licensing, TV shows, all that? How is that bringing video games? How is that bringing in people and introducing them to the miniature hobby? And that'll be the interesting thing, is like, can they pivot their business back to like, let's focus on what we have and bring the attention back to that a little bit? Does Warhammer community pivot a little bit back, or does it keep just being the marketing engine of like, keep people focused on what's next, what's coming up, and ignore everything else that already exists on the shelf, right? It's interesting. Like, it's an interesting thing. Like, I'll just say it's tough as a shop owner, like, to plan events and do things now that have like longer term periods, because there's so much attention being pulled away to different things all the time. It makes it more challenging for sure. What do you guys think? Is there a future where they can pull back and refocus things on their existing miniature kits, bring things back in stock? Do you think they can increase the amount of new releases that are coming out? Do you think that's even like is that even possible? Is it even possible to put out more bigger box sets, more big box sets in a year than they've already done this year? I mean, I could rip off like there's at least 15, easily. Like maybe it's more like 30. It does feel like there's been at least one a week, and it's probably more like 2 a week, because the big box thing is just a normal thing they do now with like codex releases, where they put one new model in and then it's a new big box, like the new Grey Knight Conclave box, where they have like the new Dread Knight kit gated in there. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. It was just a thought, and I probably talked about it before, but like, just kind of in my headspace. That's where these kind of solo videos kind of come in, where I'm just like thinking about a topic, and I'm like, I'll share it with the community, see what everyone thinks. Can we pull ourselves back from this, or is this just a new modus operandum that GW is going to work under? Are they a victim of their own? We put out so much stuff, and we have to keep doing it, and we have to keep increasing it. And where does that end? Where does that stop? Does it stop, or does it just keep increasing? So we'll see, obviously, but what are your guys' thoughts? Let us know. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please check out our Patreon, where you can have a bit more of a intimate conversation with us. We'll be adding more stuff to Patreon as we go along. And check out our hobby channel, Lords of War hobby channel, if you want to see some like painting tutorials, us talk more about the hobby side of things. Thanks guys, take care.